Welcome, everyone, to the True Stories in Tech podcast, life-changing conversations in the areas of technology, business, and belonging. My name is Eric Klaus, CEO of Partner Source Solutions. I'm here with our regular guests and panel, Brian Enuma, strategic president. All right, stopping. All right, I'm out of practice. Wow. Normally,
you are in mid-season form, my friend.
I'm in preseason form, apparently. I'm not even, wow. Where did that go? All right.
It's okay. Eddie started and then stopped this morning or that afternoon too. So
it's just the day. It's the day
we got the yips going. We got a little bit of the something going on there. All right, let's try this again.
Cool.
Welcome, everyone, to the True Stories in Tech podcast, life-changing conversations in the areas of technology, business, and belonging. My name is Eric Klaus, CEO of Partner Source Solutions. I'm here with our regular crew, Brian Enuma, President of Strategic Systems Group, Manish Bardia, President of Think AI Consulting, Eddie Bader, COO of Aegis Innovators, and our special guest today, we're super excited to have with us, Katie Ryckman, Director of Microsoft US Small Business Partner Strategy. Katie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to be chatting with you all.
Well, we're excited to have you with us today. So we usually start off with just a little bit, giving you a chance to tell everybody who you are and how you got where you are today, which could be as long or as short as you want it to be.
Well, how much time do we have? Because that could take a while. But let me try and give you some short snippets of my life to give you an idea of kind of who I am. Let's see, I'm originally from the Seattle area, so Washington. Born, raised, grew up, loved the Northwest. But in terms of kind of my journey here, if you will, I never saw IT, I never saw technology as something that I was looking to do in life. I went from wanting to be a doctor when I was really young to realizing that I am far too afraid of blood and needles to ever be a doctor or a nurse or anything around a hospital or doctor's office. Then I realized that I love sports. So I've done all kinds of sports throughout, elementary school to now. I actually still play sports now. And so from, maybe the more known sports from gymnastics and soccer and dance, if you want to call that a sport. Diving was probably my biggest one, where I went to the Junior Olympics in elementary school as a platform and springboard diver. And, a handful of sports along the ways until I fell in love with rugby in college. Actually got an academic scholarship and a diving scholarship, and then switched over to rugby instead of diving. And I, had an older brother who was a bit of a brute. And for some reason, I love contact sports is what I learned along the way here. So fell in love with rugby and played for all through college. And then club rugby after college before finding football, which was kind of crazy because my mom always thought my brother, who's a year older than I am, she was like, I had these dreams of seeing my children's name in lights, or my son's really name in lights for playing football or playing some sport. My brother was not a sports guy. That was all me. So I ended up playing professional football. And she's like, it was kind of surreal when I went to, your first professional football game, and it wasn't my son, it was my daughter who was playing. So, sports is something that I absolutely love, has always been kind of in my DNA. And now, although I'm a little older and cannot do full contact anymore because recovery time is just not what it used to be, now I play flag football and I coach my daughter's rugby team. So, for me, that was really a focus. And academically, honestly, I didn't come from an area where going to college was something that most of my high school counterparts really thought about. And so it was last minute. My dad pulled me into a college fair, and I ended up going to I really lucked out in going to a great college in Maine, Colby College. And that's where I started to get on a better path toward thinking about things other than sports, even though I played rugby. And even at that, I was a German major with an econ minor, and technology again. You're just not really in scope. So after college, I kind of tripped and fell into a sales and marketing tech role at a small company called Kansas in Kansas. And they did carrier access billing services. And that was the first time that I realized that technology might even be an interest for me. And the company, though small, was great. And I had some great mentors in that company that I still keep in touch with actually to this day. And that kind of started my journey toward Microsoft. And I've held a handful of different positions in kind of the tech industry, from sales to marketing to operations to now strategy, and worked in the partner side, the partner space. So I worked for a company called Nudesic, which is a systems integrator in Southern California, and helped to build out their marketing team years and years ago. And that was probably two and a half years at Nudesic before coming to Microsoft as a full-time employee. I was a vendor even previous to Nudesic, a vendor of Microsoft. And I absolutely love Microsoft, love the partner community. For me, I feel like that's where my roots are in partner, because some of my first roles at Microsoft were supporting partners. And then I went to a partner. And so that for me is kind of my roots. And I love the connection with IMCP as well, because they've also helped me when I was a partner in kind of understanding the partner ecosystem, how to partner with other partners better. And so I've continued to stay connected with IMCP throughout the years, from when I was a partner through to now being at Microsoft, especially in the SMB space, because no better focus for me in the connection to IMCP and supporting our partners that are, in essence, an extension of Microsoft in supporting our customers in this SMB space, where we don't have Microsoft sellers like we do in the managed space for unmanaged customers. So I guess that tells a little bit about me and my journey. Long story long, but yeah, let me know any questions you've got or.
Yeah, so thank you. I mean, that's a great starting point. And so Seattle area to Maine, that had to be a life change. Seattle not known for its rain, not known for its snow. Definitely different climate, although very northern both, but certainly a very different climate going to Maine. But what was that transition like, going from, going cross country? I mean, that's in a lot of respects, that had to be a big life change.
So probably two things that jump out to me the most in terms of moving from Seattle to Maine, which really one of the main reasons I made the move, other than Colby College was a great college, is I was looking just to get as far away from my parents as possible in high school, right? where can I go where they still speak English? As far away but really the two things in terms of kind of the change that I experienced. One was weather, obviously, like you mentioned already. I was wearing my snowboard clothes and goggles to and from class as I'm walking across campus with snow drifts almost as tall as I am. And man, in the first semester there, I didn't think I was going to make it. I didn't think I was going to stay. I was not meant for cold weather, hence why I have now moved to San Diego. But yeah, that was tough. We had one winter where, was it 1% of our student body got pneumonia, walking pneumonia, because
wow.
there wasn't much to do there. Kids would drink and they'd think that they were warm because they were drinking. They'd go out and not be dressed appropriately. And so it was cold. Well, just it was cold. -40 degrees with wind chill, and you're getting these warnings popping up on your phone telling you, careful, because you're going to end up with dead skin spots if you're exposed for more than 5 minutes to this cold. So yeah, no, I'd never necessarily want to move back there. So weather being number one. Number two was culture. It was a big culture shock going from Seattle, kind of West Coast, to small town in Maine. I mean, the college was 1,700 students, and the town around it was not much bigger. I'm pretty sure mullets were just coming into style. I really hope that no one in the city around Colby College is listening to this. But it seemed so different from where I grew up and who I grew up around. Not to say that I grew up a little bit south of Seattle, and it wasn't terribly diverse, but it was more diverse.
Sure.
And I think it was around about my junior year where some of the areas around Colby College were celebrating becoming the whitest state in the nation.
Oh, wow.
They had just taken over, I think it was North Dakota. And it was, it's a bit of a shell shock when that's something that's being celebrated. So yeah, it was interesting. But on campus in a small liberal arts school, it was very different than going off campus. So I will say Colby itself, I mean, it was great and it was fairly diverse, but the experiences off campus were eye-opening. And I guess if I've got time for one, I'll share one that was a bit life-changing for me.
Yeah.
So I was looking to get a job off campus. I had a couple of on-campus jobs to help kind of make ends meet. There's an opportunity for an off-campus job babysitting some foster kids that were like, I don't know, a little bit 10 minutes away from campus. And I'd always been interested in fostering or adopting children versus having my own. So I thought this was a great opportunity for me personally, as well as making some extra cash. And so we set up a time for me to go meet the family where they had the 3 foster kids. Just past dark, so around dusk rather. And I went up, knocked on the door, was waiting to be let in. And the mom like peeked through the curtains and like I could hear some rustling, and she's like, "Honey, there's a black girl at the door." And I was like, "This is strange." And you hear them like whispering, and then I see like the husband's head like poke through the blinds and then stop, and then I hear some more whispering behind the door. And then the husband, they had two doors, like the screen door and the main door, opens the door and locks the screen like right in front of me. And he's like, what do you need? What do you want? And I was like, I'm here for the interview. I'm here to babysit. Like kind of taken aback. And he's like, well, hold on just a minute. And he closes the door, locks the door as I'm still just standing out on their porch. And he says to the wife, "She's black. The babysitter that we've been talking to, she's black." And like, I speak like my mom. I mean, that's my mom's white, my dad's white, who I grew up with. Like, that's how I speak. I've never had the experience until that point of someone really calling out that the way that I speak puts a different picture in people's head than how I show up in person. And for them, that was too much. They had a picture, they had an expectation in mind. And when I showed up at the door, I did not match that expectation. They were nice enough to still let me in and go through the motions as if I were being interviewed. But it was so uncomfortable. The kids were great, kids were nice, no issues there. But but it was very uncomfortable to have them being like, yeah, pretty much telling me it's not going to happen. Like, we thought you were white. And, obviously I didn't say that out loud, but I was like, wow, like this is, one of my first kind of job experiences out on my own. Before that, I was living at home or working on campus. And I was like, holy cow, like there's some, pretty big potential hurdles that I'm going to experience in life. So yeah, it's a bit life-changing.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So you mentioned that as kind of a lesson, but I'm curious, what did you take away from that experience?
That's a great question. What did I take away from that? I think part of it for me is helping to set the right expectations sometimes for folks, because I think sometimes maybe just the shock alone can be hard for people to kind of take. But at the same time, like that's their bad. Like, I would have been a great babysitter.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, how does that play into the qualifications of being able to babysit the kids? Right. Like that. Yeah, exactly. Like, you would have been a great babysitter. Right. Yeah.
And that's, I think that's in the end kind of the big thing that I have to, realize sometimes is like this, it's not me. And there's nothing necessarily that I should be doing differently. Like I said, I do try and set expectations when I can, where appropriate. But for the most part, I'm just here to be me. And if they don't like me, then there's plenty of other opportunities out there, and it's their miss. And that's unfortunate, but they're the ones missing out.
Did it fuel you in any way, like that kind of rejection, though? Dealing with that when you're young. I'm just curious. Like, I think we've had some other guests who've talked about how, that can be that kind of experience can be a driver in some cases for some people. I'm curious if you had any reaction.
So definitely and somewhat would be my answer there. Definitely, because yes, those types of experiences have fueled me, and somewhat because that's one of many experiences. So it wasn't that it was that experience that fueled me. I've had numerous that I could mention, and I think for me, what I've found is, like I said, I'm here to be me. So you're gonna, what you see is what you get. But there's also kind of this additional drive, maybe, to show that I'm awesome. Right? and it's like I said, it's an unfortunate, thing that others, miss out on getting to know me if they've got some preconceived notions that kind of block off their ability to get to know me. And in the working world, it has been, maybe getting a little candid for a minute, like it has been somewhat of the driver for me to continue to push and to maybe do more than I thought possible, get outside my comfort zone. Because there are, even coming into my role currently, there was definitely a while where I had to do a bit of soul searching to say, hey, I'm doing well where I'm at. Like, do I need to take that next step up the ladder? And part of my conversation with myself is, how do I want to show up to others that might look up to me? And for me, a big one for me is my daughter. And I want to show that there are, great female, Black, African American, mixed, actually, leaders out there, and that, they can look up to them. And for my daughter, like I said, in particular, I want her to feel empowered to take, steps up the ladder if that's what she chooses, or if not, then great. But I don't want her to ever feel like she's blocked from doing that because she didn't have the right role models or because she didn't see people in those positions that looked like her. And I guess in all fairness, my daughter does look pretty white. But you know, but yeah, and this, you know, beyond my daughter, you know, any number of, you know, young Black women out there, I didn't know any when I was growing up. I didn't see that. I didn't see, you know, Black princesses. I didn't, you know, in Disney movies kind of a thing. And I didn't see Black executives. My mom was white. She did really well in business. But all the people I saw with her were white as well. And so, yeah, I love the thought of having more diversity farther up the ladder, that others can look up to and aspire to, and, you know, not see it as much of a challenge as maybe we've seen in the past.
Thank you. Yeah, first off, we agree with you. You are awesome. And thumbs up from Eddie. And to go back maybe to the sport side of things, you started with something there, and I was intrigued by this because it sounded like you bounced around a whole bunch of different sports.
Yeah.
I'm gonna imagine that's maybe because you weren't great at all of them, but you were trying them, right? So that's what I want to go to. What I want to ask about though is that was it curiosity? Was it what drove you to go and try all of these things, all of these different sports, and keep coming back, you know, keep going back at them, versus just throwing up your hands and going, well, I'm not good at sports, I'm going to go do something else.
So I will counter your assumption with saying that I was great at every sport, and that was part of the problem.
Okay. Okay.
So I think, and I actually see this in my daughter a bit too, is I'm naturally athletic, but it was hard for me to find a passion for a specific sport. And so I'd hear someone talk about how much they liked some other sport, and I'd be like, ooh, maybe I'll try that one. And so curiosity definitely is what got me moving from sport to sport. But man, if I'd had the passion to stay with a sport from a young age, I can only imagine what I'd be doing now with that. And really, the only sports I don't like watching them, I don't like playing them, I don't like talking about them, is only because I wasn't naturally good at them. So
Okay.
Basketball, no. Golf, swimming, I doggy paddle. But yet I was a springboard platform diver.
I was gonna say, how does that work? So you doggy paddle from once you hit the water to the wall?
So
okay.
funny story, funny you ask. Before I really got the doggy paddle down, my dive coach said that I looked like a fish out of water in the water. And because I'd just be kind of splashing around, and he during one of our dive matches at one point, our dive meets, it was practice before the meet, and I dive and I flail over to the side, and he pulled me to the side and he's like, I know we've talked about this before, but as you're getting more advanced in your diving, people are looking for you to be graceful beyond just the dive. And he goes, I know we're supposed to focus on just the dive, but when folks aren't sure if they should grade your dive or jump in and save you, he's like, we've got a problem.
That is awesome.
So I was like, we either need to learn how to swim or how to at least try and look a little bit more graceful. So after that, or in the midst of that meet, I decided that I would dive in, go to the bottom of the pool and walk to the side and then shoot up. And so I had to make sure that I had enough air in my lungs to get me down to the bottom, over to the side and back up.
Oh my God.
Because swimming was just never something that came natural to me. So yeah, that was my go-to for years until I learned how to doggy paddle better.
Wow. That's amazing.
That is an awesome story.
That's a great story.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a nice that, you are a driver and there are these incidents. So we want to hear something like that in golf.
My daughter is trying to get me to play more golf. We've taken some golfing lessons together down here in SoCal. But I realize outside of diving, which does have some, strength to the finesse that's in diving, because you need the strength to actually get up enough height and spin and things like that. But I'm more of a brute force kind of a person, and golf is not a brute force game. So it's a little harder for me. Yes.
I think once you will learn couple of key motion, you will like it actually, because it does have some force, but it needs some timing. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Look,
actually,
Katie, if you play with Manish, he goes to courses where you can just throw the ball, so that's all brute force, right? You don't have to actually play with your clubs, because this guy will take you. You can basically just kind of toss it over. So that's a possibility for you.
So I feel like I need to learn the who is that? It's not Billy Madison. Happy Gilmore. I need to learn the Happy Gilmore swing where I can start back a bit, like approach and then get at it. Because I feel like that might be more my style.
There's a place we did an IMCP event in San Diego, Katie, that's right up your alley though, because it's like the combination of golf and soccer. You kick a soccer ball, towards a hole, and you have to get, and the hole is about the size of like a trash can.
Okay.
But you got to kick the ball a couple of 100 yards down the fairway, effectively, and try and get the ball in the hole. That might be your kind of golf.
And
wait
for it. The name of this is
soccer golf.
Foot golf.
Soccer golf.
It's foot golf.
Foot golf.
It's a compelling name.
Maybe slightly more my style. Even better if there were tackling involved.
Well, you know what? Maybe we can come up with a variation of this sport for you where there's an element of defense that somebody has to play.
Perfect. I like it.
So can you skate? Because it sounds like hockey might be right up your alley.
Yeah. See, there we go. Eddie is a big hockey player, so
Oh,
he's
really?
looking. Yes. So if Eddie's looking for some recruiting here, I think.
Okay. Yeah. If you've got some co-ed club ice hockey.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So that's actually one thing that my daughter's looking at. So I didn't think about college until my junior year in high school. My dad dragged me to a college fair. My daughter, on the other hand, is already thinking about college now and told me that she doesn't think she wants to play rugby anymore because it's really hard to get a rugby scholarship. So she looked up what are the easiest sports to get a college scholarship for. And the number one sport for girls was ice hockey. That 25% of girls that apply for ice hockey scholarships in the US get them. But that's also because hardly anybody applies for them. So,
right.
But it also, it also kind of limits what schools you want to go to that provide ice hockey scholarships as well. So we're talking through all of that right now, while I'm also thinking like, how are you thinking about this so young at 10 years old? This is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to believe there's probably a good ice hockey team though in Maine.
Yeah, for the record, Princeton, Yale, Harvard all have ice hockey teams. Just saying.
Yeah, there we go. She's got some good options still out there. Though I think, let's see, it was like lacrosse and volleyball and field hockey and a couple of other were high on the list as well. So now she's deciding what her next sport is going to be that she wants to try out. Yeah.
Yeah, already planning. That's amazing. So Katie, I was checking out your LinkedIn and Nudesic. I think you were with Nudesic. My partner is ex-Nudesic, same timing actually. Dave Goyal. I don't know if you met him, Devendra Goyal, but maybe
Doesn't
when
ring bells. You're saying we're there at the same time. What was his role?
Solution architect. He was a data guy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, once you see, maybe it will recall. So I have a question related to SMB versus more structured companies like Nudesic, and you did marketing, and you know how SMB reacts to marketing, and you know Microsoft perspective on it. Tell us a little bit like what Nudesic did differently, which can be applied toward SMB, or how SMB should be thinking about marketing. Half of the sale is going towards, looking good or being available online and all things. So what's your perspective on that?
I would say that since Nudesic's focus isn't necessarily the SMB space, I would probably take more of my my thoughts here, my recommendations here from my work at Microsoft, where 5-6 years ago or so, I was in the SMB space, and now I'm a boomerang. I've come back around to the SMB space. And I think some of the main things that I hear is simplicity, right? How do you make it so that your message lands simply with the customer versus making it overly complex, and having it really focused around the customer's business challenge and how you can help to solve them. Because all too often, you see this a lot in tech companies, is they focus on the technology, right? Here's how great our technology is, how fast it is, how, I could give any number of examples here and kind of the feeds and speeds and bits and bytes. And, that's all great kind of behind the scenes. But a lot of our SMB buyers aren't necessarily, going to be the data architect, or they, sometimes they could be, but they have a real business challenge that they need a partner's help to solve. And that's really what they're looking for. They're not necessarily looking for, just the fastest, biggest, best. They're looking for a comprehensive solution that's going to solve that business problem. And I think that's often what I see as a bit of a miss for some of our tech partners that focus too much on the technology, especially in the initial conversation, the initial let's try and get someone hooked, instead of on the business problem. Or, if we can have an industry slant, even better. So I think simplifying to how you address their challenge is probably the number one thing from a marketing perspective, that I see. And Microsoft isn't immune to this. This is something that we have to work through every day as well. I see blogs come up across my desk a fair amount, where it's like, hey, maybe let's kind of twist this on its head. So we put the technology that we provide at the latter half, and the business challenge that we're addressing at the front end. Just as examples.
Got it. Another question came as you were talking, and one of my client also said, I asked my client, hey, how did you find me? He said, I searched on Google and I saw so many providers, but I asked my friend. So referral was, he went with because he got confused. So, and I'm CP, our business is P2P, and it has worked. But every time we hear, the sales is like, referral is not the only way to go sell direct. So that is like counterproductive, and we have not been selling like that. So that's a tough way to do. Any input you have on that?
I would say it's a mix. And, there's going to be a lot of partners out there that are maybe newer, or kind of, looking to grow, that maybe don't have a big set of customers already. So referral doesn't necessarily work for them if they're looking to grow when they don't have a lot of customers to refer them, right? So it kind of depends on the maturity of the partner and their customer base. But I think to your point, referrals are a big deal, especially when you are driving, that the loyalty of your customers and you have a good relationship with them. Anything that you can do to help support that. Referrals are great. And this is, even beyond technology. Just in the world today, we're in information overload, right? When you go to look up just about anything, you can find all kinds of answers out there. If you can find someone that can provide you I'm looking for a gate, I'm looking for a patio cover, whatever it is, right? And your neighbor has some good suggestions, that's more likely what you're going to go with, right? So making sure that you have a good kind of loyalty and referral program, as well as the support to make sure that they have a good experience with your product, with your service, that can make all the difference in the world. But kind of back to your question too, Manish, in terms of the mix out there going direct versus referral, I would never put all your eggs in one basket. So having a mix is definitely crucial for just about any partner. And if referrals get you to where you need to be, then great. But if you're looking to accelerate further, then there's always other options out there.
Yeah. I think before I give it to Brian, I want to, or others, I want to reiterate. I mean, I was a developer when I started, and MCP showed the way to P2P, and that has been a blessing. Otherwise, I would have much hard time. And also Microsoft, the local rep, right? Like that time, Justin, and the whole community connection and everything has been a great help. So Microsoft has accelerated
that. A good point. Referrals don't necessarily need to be your customers. Like referrals can be P2P, right? Referrals can be the Microsoft reps helping to make some of those connections for you. So referrals goes true, and I wasn't even thinking necessarily at that point, but yeah, referrals can be much more than just your customer. So very true.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Katie, I would like to go back to something that you said earlier, where you had to do a little bit of soul searching regarding taking a step up the ladder. Did I hear that correctly? So I don't know if it's true for all of us, but I think in my experience, if I had a chance to take a step up the ladder, I would. So why did you hesitate?
Ooh, we're gonna get real personal real quick. So my husband passed away at the end of last year.
Sorry to hear
and it kind of set my whole world a spin. And we have two kids, Lily and Oliver, girl and a boy. And our son was his son from my husband's son from his late wife. So Oliver's biological mother had passed away when he was a baby. And so it was a lot. It was a lot. And so it was a personal kind of decision that I needed to take some time to really make sure that I was making the right decision. Because yes, me prior to that would have been like, let's, bring it on. A promotion? Yeah, let's do this. But I really had to do some, soul searching, like I said, because now I was a single mom and I don't have any family support down here. And I had my daughter who was mine, so she was obviously going to be staying with me, but I didn't legally adopt my son. So although I was mom, I wasn't legally mom. And so now he's living with his aunt and uncle. So it's his late mom's brother. So I told you we were going to get real personal real fast. And, I still get to see them every other weekend. They live about 35 minutes away. They're a lovely family. They've got extended family. He fits really well into with their kids. They have 3 kids, younger and older. He's in the middle now. And he seems to be doing really well, especially all things, considered. And so it was just, man, the opportunity was great professionally. But I'm more than just my work life. And so that's why I had to really take some time to say, does this make sense for me right now with everything else that's going on?
Thank you for that. I wasn't expecting it to get that personal that fast.
Yeah, life's been a roller coaster. Yes, and especially 2020. My goodness, that was the longest 6 years of my life.
I hear you, and I sympathize. I am very sorry to hear that you lost your husband, and I can relate. In June, I lost my mom. All kinds of things happened in a short period of time, and it's just mind-boggling. So I sympathize.
Yeah. Well, condolences.
Thank you. I wanted to ask a question about strategy. And every so often, and I have trouble essentially defining strategy versus, say, tactics and objectives. So maybe if you could, in the context of your work, how would you define strategy?
Oh, this is a tough one. Do I get a pass? Can I phone a friend? So strategy for me is really how we're looking at the market opportunity that's out there, and where is it that Microsoft can really address the challenges that our customers are experiencing to help us gain share. And so it's very high level versus the tactics of the how we're going to go about gaining share, but really more so the why, right? Like, why are we even focusing in this area? Why are we even focusing on, I would say, Power Apps and Power Automate in the biz app space, right? And that's because we have a lack of developers in the space to meet the demand of the apps that are being requested, right? And so this is an opportunity for us to go address that disparity that's in the market. And so that's where I kind of see the difference between the strategy and the tactics. It's the why are we focused here and what are our focus areas, versus the tactics are how are we going to take advantage of this market opportunity through, social or events or direct sales or referrals, or, whatever it might be. And ideally having kind of an end-to-end approach throughout the tactics to make sure that all of the different levers that we have in our organization are being pulled appropriately to address that opportunity.
Cool. Very good. Good. I was also looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I saw some things that were interesting. One that kind of jumped out is something that I saw that's a discipline award. Does that ring a bell?
I'm guessing that was at Nudesic. Was that or does it say?
It doesn't say.
Okay, so there's been awards both at Nudesic and on the Microsoft side, and so it's sometimes hard to remember which ones came from where. But if I'm remembering correctly, the discipline award was really around execution excellence, and how do we make sure that we're having the discipline to drive the execution that we said we would do all the way through to the end results. And oftentimes it's, we've got a vision in mind, we put a plan together, but then things kind of fall apart as the next shiny object pops in, or, you're a squirrel, so you're thinking about other things, right? And then you might not have that full circle to the end of yes, these were our KPIs. This is how we completed it, how we connected our marketing activities, because it was marketing award, our marketing activities into the sales funnel and the sales engine, rather, to take action on those opportunities or those leads or what so that we're feeding to the sales team, and what was the business impact that we had in the end. And that's really the discipline within marketing that sometimes falls short, because it ends up just being more around the intangible KPIs, like eyes on a blog, visits to a web page or something like that, versus the business impact in terms of, say, revenue.
Good. There was one more that's looked interesting to me. Something that looks like, I think it said Champion Award. Does Champion Award sound familiar?
Champion Award is definitely a Microsoft award. The Champion Award, gosh, this was for the, what do we call it? The Azure Mentor Program, which was then expanded to become the Cloud Mentor Program. And it was something that we built 5-6 years ago. It was actually focused on the SMB space back when I was in the SMB space before I came back here. And it was really around the challenge of Microsoft not having enough resources technically in the breadth space to help enable partners to be ready for building their next practice, or say in Azure specifically, it was maybe it was just the cloud foundations that a partner was familiar with, and we wanted to kind of take that next step and maybe bring in some other areas of Azure services up through AI and ML, and kind of walk them through those steps to become more mature in the different practices that they had. Or it could be a partner that had never sold Azure before, and really we're just teaching them those cloud foundations and infrastructure and things like that. And it was a whole program that we started in the US, working with worldwide. Then we expanded to other subs worldwide, and ultimately expanded to other solution areas as well. And I was lucky enough to, be at the ground floor in kind of putting the vision together of how can we scale our enablement for these breadth partners serving our SMB customers that we don't internally have that scale to do. We brought in some vendors and some other partners to help with the trainings and things like that, and built a program around it. So that was exciting, because I think the numbers in the end were something like 300 plus partners that were technically enabled through this program just on Azure before we even expanded to the other solution areas.
Wow, that's a really impressive story. Okay, one last one. There's something in there that looks like Team Award. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, the Team Award was another Microsoft one. The Team Award was an interesting one, actually, because I sat within what we call the business groups, or the marketing and operations team at Microsoft. And I was the SMB segment lead within our Azure business group. And I worked very closely then with, if you guys have been around for a while, Cindy Bates and her organization, which was all SMB specific. This was pre the creation of OCP, pre-GPS, and alphabet soup. So I worked really close with Cindy Bates's organization, so much so that people didn't even realize that I didn't sit on Cindy Bates's team. And it was kind of funny, because this award was actually meant for people within Cindy Bates's organization. And I'd gotten so many nominations for the award, they had me come to their offsite to present to me the award as an honorary member of their team. So it was really cool for me, because really they were my internal customers, and for them to feel that I was so close and in tune to what they were doing, that they were nominating me for an award as if I was in that organization. That was pretty cool.
That's cool. Good. Okay, may I go to one last topic, which maybe I'll try and combine two things into one. You used the term role model, which I think in Rodney Campbell's discussion, it sort of felt that that was what he was called to be, a role model. I remember, was it Boys and Girls Club of America? Is that correct, Eddie? Yeah. So he took a role, an executive role, as I recall, to be a role model to those kids. Sort of maybe an adjacent topic. So we have a young woman in our team. She's just turned 17. Has skills in video and graphic editing and so forth. So maybe to kind of mix these together, what would you, as a role model, suggest to her at this stage of her life?
Probably similar to what I'm trying to think of for my daughter as well. But it's really be your genuine self. Find what you love to do and you're good at. And I mean, the world is your oyster, right? I mean, if it sounds easier than it is really to be your genuine self, especially at all times. That will be tested again and again. But if you can be true to who you are, like, you shine through, right? And you can be much more impactful in what you do and be happy about it. For me, my definition of success is happiness. Am I happy as a person? Am I happy with what I'm doing? Am I happy with where I am in life and my balance that I have in life? And if I'm not, then I need to be doing something different. And that's always kind of been my North Star in terms of, do I consider myself successful? So I think, those would be, a couple of key nuggets that I might have. But I think I might have gotten a little lucky post-college when it came to falling into something that I enjoyed doing and was good at within kind of the marketing and technology realm. And it doesn't hurt that it pays decently. So, if you can look at ways to marry kind of those things together while you are being your genuine self as well, I think that's really what we should be going for. And if I can get those aligned, then I do find that I'm happy, because family is my number one priority, and I always balance that well within my work.
Cool. All right, so I think that valid guidance for a 17-year-old and us baby boomers too.
Fair enough. Oh, you know what? There is one other thing that when I was a vendor at Microsoft, that a gal that I worked with, Sharon Peterson, told me, and this is something that, especially for people coming into kind of the working world and kind of setting their boundaries, has been incredibly important for me, and crucial to how I set my boundaries, because I'm not always good at it. But Sharon told me at one point that if I can't get my job done in 40 hours, then I shouldn't be in my role. And I was like, whoa, like, I'm working 60 hours a week. Maybe this isn't the role for me. And like, I was getting all in my head for a second, but then, she quickly kind of added to that to say that I need to be making sure that I'm taking care of myself, because if I'm burning out in my role, then I'm not good. I'm no good to anyone, including myself and my family. I need to make sure that I'm taking advantage of the resources that are available to me, as well as the people. So delegating and reworking, priorities and responsibilities with my manager. She was my manager at the time. And she's like, that's where I'm here to help you. If you have too much on your plate, then we need to reprioritize. We need to look at where, who you can look to delegate this to. Like, we're in this together, right? And she was telling me that if I don't set some of these boundaries myself and reach out for help when I need it and reprioritize when it's needed, it's like any job, any company can eat you alive, can take all your time. Like, you need to set your boundaries. And, I've definitely taken that to heart, especially, with family and needing to set boundaries, through COVID and everything that's going on. Like, what a test of being able to set and stick to boundaries. Right?
Good. Terrific. Thank you so much.
Eddie.
It's okay. Yeah, thanks. I just want to start off by just saying thank you. You've been truly authentic, from the first word you uttered, through now, and your candor in answering all these questions. I'm sorry for your loss, and hearing that for the first time, I feel really bad. But know that you're amongst friends, and we are always here for you. So I just wanted to put that out first and foremost. We all think the world of you, by the way. So if you didn't realize that, you should know that. And I'm just telling you so you don't have to ever to question that. We've been talking about having you on for a long time, and now that you're here, it's awesome. And we're already, I know that I'm already planning the next visit that you have on this podcast, and when we might be able to see you in person, which would be fantastic. So
I love that.
one of the things you talked about early on, and you'd addressed so many things that I wanted to talk to you about, is as a Black woman who's a leader in a technology space, not necessarily a lot of Black women in leadership roles in technology. Not a lot of women in technology, and we know that for a fact. Gabriella was shouting that from the mountaintops about how we have to create equity, right? And I agree with her. When you look at your daughter, and regardless of where she ends up in terms of her career and things like that, given who you are, given what you represent in this space, what is it that you feel that you can do to pave the way for others to follow, to make it easier for them to come in, and we talk about being able to see yourselves in a space. You talked about it with your daughter. She's got to be able to see that role model, right? And when you look for her and beyond her, what should we be doing? Not just you, because it's not ever just you. It's not just ever one person, but there's 4 men on this call, this podcast with you. What can we be doing to help enable and empower young women to see this space as an opportunity for them at all levels?
Two things when it comes to probably, allyship, maybe is how I'd want to kind of call it for you guys, as for males on the panel, is one, speaking up. So when you see that there is inequity, when you see that or hear that there might be some offhanded joke or comment or thing like that, that's disparaging or cuts a little for a female or for someone of color, or any number of minority traits that someone might have, it's speaking up and saying something about it, because what I find hard is my voice is sometimes dismissed as the angry Black woman, right? And it's like I'm just taking things too personal, and so oftentimes the voice of an ally is louder than the voice of the minority in situations like that. So I would say speaking up when you can, that's awesome. The other thing would be looking for opportunities for inclusion. So you already called it out. You got 4 guys on the panel here. That could be a great opportunity to pull in a female. And I've been kind of new to the setup that you have here, so you might have a rotating circle of panelists or something where you do have some females coming in from time to time. I mean, I love that you called on me to be, interviewed within this group. So, when you see those opportunities for more diversity, for more inclusion, take advantage of them, right? Go look to see where you can plug some holes. Go reach out to a female, or if there's a job opening within your company or any other number of partners that you guys work with. How do you make sure that you're getting that in front of, say, women in technology? How are you getting in front of other organizations that support diversity and inclusion? And so those are probably a couple of things that come to mind in terms of how allies can help.
So I'll address the low-hanging fruit. We have a microphone ready for you when you want to join this group to be part of the podcast on a regular basis, or even as a guest. So, I could put it in the mail tonight. As soon as you say yes, you just let us know. So just to make sure that's clear. So, and I still want to kind of talk about your daughter a little bit. So what she represents, her generation, and not what she represents just to you and your family, but what her and all the girls her age and in that age group represent to society. What do you see as the future and their potential to make some change that's long overdue?
So the potential is huge. And I think for me, I'm already seeing sometimes so much influence from my generation and generation just above me who have kids in my age group, where they're already so impacted by those societal norms and the pressures to be a girly girl or stay at home mom or things like that. That totally fine if that's what you want to do. I'm not saying, gosh, I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I tried for a little bit and I was like, I gotta get out of here. Get out of here. So I mean, to each their own, but without the societal pressure is I think something that's hard. But the potential is incredibly immense, right? And I think for me, what I would love is if the kids didn't have so much of the historical baggage that was being handed down to them, that they could freely do what they want, what's in their hearts, versus what they're being told they should do or need to do or look like or dress like or any number of things. And so yeah, potential is there, but we make so much of a difference in how our kids see the world that I try so hard to let my daughter be who she is. And sometimes I've got to kind of keep it inside because she is a different kid. She is awesome. Like I want to be like her when I grow up. But cool. Kindergarten, she wanted to shave her head. And from when she was really young, I was the one that was buying the clothes and choosing what she wore and whatever else. So it was, pinks and purples and glittery shoes and I don't know what. And so I was already like pushing her towards something that wasn't necessarily what was in her, but I also didn't necessarily know what was inside her. And kindergarten, she really broke out of that mold. It was like, nope, I'm shopping in the boys section. I want to shave my head. Like she dove into sports at that point. And I was like, okay, she is through and through a tomboy. And I'm still, trying to figure out where this is going to go as she kind of blossoms into whoever she's going to be. But I needed to force myself to stand aside and say, I'm going to support you in whatever you want to do and who you are. And I pretty much told her, I was like, you can cut your hair as short as you want. You can dye it whatever color you want, but you got to get good grades. and you've got to be a nice person. Like those were the two things where I said, if you get good grades and you're a nice person, you can dress however you want. You can do your hair however you want. Actually, now that I'm saying this, there are some styles I would have a hard time with clothing wise. So I might have to cross that bridge.
I was going to say, that's a tough one.
But, you know, so far so good. She's a tomboy with great grades, and she's an incredibly nice person. And at this point, that's all I'm really looking for.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I'm not saying this for any other reason then it just requires a shift in our mentality, right? Because you said you had to kind of back off, right? Because we start, unbeknownst to us, sometimes we start pushing those societal norms, right?
Oh yeah.
So I have a friend with 2 daughters, and I wanted to get them some gifts, and now there's, you know, typically what we would get a girl gift, right? And that's part of the problem is there's a typical boy gift and a girl gift. And I ended up getting them like a robot that they can put together, right? Because it's more STEM related, right?
Yeah.
And maybe there's interest, maybe there's not, but it's not me to decide what interests you have. Is part of I think our roles are to expose them to a breadth of things and let them find their own way, right? To your point, it's like you're creating, you have boundaries. It's not like it's, you know, anarchy, right? This is like, you're not parenting at all, but you're parenting in a very inclusive and genuine way where you're providing the support, and you know, you do have boundaries, but you also have a lot of freedom, and your freedom is kind of based on you being able to meet some things. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that's a great example of how we can start changing mindset. I think we have to change our mindset so that they can be free to change theirs, right? And do the things that they want to.
Yes. And that was a change for me. When she wanted to shave her head, it took me almost a year before I would let her shave her head. And like I was letting her cut the hair like shorter and shorter. But and I didn't mean to do this, but I was saying, oh, but long hair is so pretty, and like your hair is so pretty, and like all this stuff, right? And she's like, I don't care about pretty. Like it's hot. Like I want to run around. Like it gets in my face when I sweat, and I'm like, well, we could put it up in pigtails. And she's like, I don't want pigtails. Right?
That's awesome. Yeah. Really
so yeah, cool. It took me a while, but you're right. We need to make the shift ourselves, and at the very least, fake it till you make it. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I think your point about, you know, grabbing, you know, women in technology, women in cloud, Black Channel Partner Alliance. I know IAMCP is working with all of those partner communities very closely because they each serve a certain segment of our ecosystem, and they do it very well. And it's not for us to necessarily recreate, but it's like, hey, tell us what we need to do. What do you need from us so that we can help you, all of us, be successful together, right? And I will say on the record that Microsoft has been really great in supporting all of the partner communities, supporting the inclusion efforts that everybody's taking on and leading in a lot of that space. So how does it feel to work for a company that is putting that on the forefront and is making no bones about where they stand in terms of equity, not only for Black partners, but across the board? I mean, to a certain extent, it's got to make you feel good, but I kind of want to hear that from you. Like, what do you think?
So if you could see like my happy dance, this is how I feel about it. Because I've been with companies that didn't care, and we're at even the opposite end of that, where because I was a female, I probably wasn't going to get promoted. And so to be at a company, especially of this size, where they're so focused internally and externally and through our partner communities of helping to understand the why behind diversity and inclusion, all the way through to supporting the how of how we get there. And I think that's incredible to feel like me as a Black female, that I have the support of senior leadership down in not just my success, but any number of other people out there, whether it's visible or not in terms of, you know, the minority kind of types that are out there. You know, we're made very aware that it's not just male and female, it's not just black and white, right? There's a lot more that's out there, and it could be, gender related, or, you know, sexual orientation, or, you know, some of the other kind of unseen ones when it comes to maybe emotional challenges even. I think that's something that I've seen addressed a lot more so within this last year and a half, is the support of, you know, taking a leave of absence and still having your time when you get back, or, you know, the extended is it maternity and paternity leave. And, you know, that's, you know, not necessarily a minority statement, but it's supporting our whole self at Microsoft. And I think that's incredible.
Yeah, they've done a good job of trying to meet people where they are. And I think that's hugely important. So, and this, because we talked about this on the last podcast, we talked about intersectionality. And so you're Black, but you are a woman. So now we doubled up on, you know, the minority stakes here. Do you find yourself, and let's say you're a Black woman, and I'm just going to throw this, which we're not like, if you're part of another minority group, do you feel like that's the walls get higher as you add you know, different things for you? Like it's different. And I was wondering if you could maybe kind of explain what that felt like. You did such a great job of talking to us about your experience, you know, interviewing for to babysit, right? And I know you have a bunch of other stories like that, and I don't necessarily want to bring back painful memories, but you're so strong. You know, I look at you, and I've always seen you as a very just strong person. You're a wonderful human being, but you are like powerful. When like you're in the same room with you, we notice you, right? You command a presence, and you have this air about you, and to know some of that history is that what made you that strong? Did you always have that with you, and or you had a little bit and this just built you up? Like, it's kind of curious to how that all that came about, because I would, you know, anytime I get to spend with you is wonderful, and I know these guys agree with me, right? And I know that everybody who's met you feels the same way. So just wanted to, you know, understand how you got to be that this confident person that we see in front of us now, and any tips for those who might be struggling to find their confidence or finding their voice, what you might say to them.
Wow. First of all, thank you, Eddie. Like, that's, I mean, incredible compliments there, and I'm, you know, humbled by that, especially because I, you know, my level of confidence is it you know, goes like this. Right. It goes up and down. And I would not say that I was born with it. You know, looking back to elementary school, I don't feel that I had a lot of confidence. And in elementary school, I actually had a really bad haircut. One year I wanted, everybody was doing like a bob. These little blonde girls that I went to school with, they're doing a little bob. I want to do a bob. My mom's like, your hair doesn't do a bob. It's not going to work. And I was like, I'm going to show you, Mom. I'm going to cut my own hair. And so I did. I pulled my hair. At this point, I had a really curly afro. I pulled my hair straight after the shower, and I cut it the length I wanted all the way around. And as my hair dried, it dried into a parted afro, because I'd like combed it down to the side to try and cut it. And I was in tears. I didn't know what to do. And it was huge. So my mom, trying to help me fix my mistake, shaved all of the hair at the sides around the back. So I just had hair on the top. But then when I laid it down, if like I ran, it would flop, and you'd see like the shave underneath, and, you know, people would make fun of me saying it was like wings or whatever. And so I pulled it back into a bun. And around about that same time, that became like the next cool boy's haircut. And so everybody thought I was a boy for 4 years thought I was a boy, to the point where I was at summer camp with my older brother, who's a year older, and I had left the campsite to go to the bathroom, come back to the campsite, and the boys are asking where Owens, my older brother, where his brother is. And Owen's like, what brother? I'm like, your brother, Katie. And they're like, he's like, that's my sister. Like, what boy's name is Katie? And one of the boys like, that's a girl. And I'm coming up and I'm like, man, I'm a girl. My name's Katie. Come on. And they're like, we thought that was a weird name for a boy. And it was years of just trying to fly under the radar because I looked like a boy. I had a athletic, boxy frame up until high school. And it was hard, being a kid can be hard. But I think so much of that, among other experiences, another side note, which just still boils my blood. First grade, I had a teacher who was racist, and she would there's 2 Black kids in the class and one that was Native American. So me, Jennifer, and Candace all had to sit in the back corner of the classroom because we learned differently per my teacher. She would give us extra work, so we'd be at the back of the line for going to lunch. We would, not often get to go to recess because she was trying to help us, because we were inevitably going to fall behind if she doesn't put us on the right path, because our brains were smaller or whatever, right? And it, in class, we couldn't be called on if we raised our hand because we were likely not going to have the right answer, and she didn't want that, poisoning the other white kids in the class. So we were told just to keep our hands down, and she would, address us later if we still had questions. And so having things like that as I'm growing up, like, she was my teacher. Like, of course she was telling me the truth that I wasn't going to be as good as these other kids, and I needed all this extra work because I wasn't as smart. That leaves a mark. And so, when you talk about my level of confidence, like, man, I don't always see it even still now. Even when people tell me that, and it's kind of it's an internal struggle, I guess, that I have. And part of it still, I guess I'm still kind of faking it till I make it sometimes. Like, I talk about being my genuine self, which it is, but it's like an internal struggle. It's hard to describe. But I don't know if that helps or if that answers your question, but confidence is a roller coaster for me, and I'm glad I project it. I don't always feel it.
They say that a lot of really smart people struggle with that imposter syndrome.
Yes,
smart, good, competent, that no matter how smart, good, competent we might be, the people who are actually really smart, really good, really competent tend to not actually think they are those things, that they're, because they see somebody else who is better, right? And so I'm not as good. I'm not good because that person over there is better, without recognizing that you might be in the 99th percentile, right?
Yeah, but I'm not in the 100th.
Right.
But that's what makes you.
Right. But it's like, it's like, you were talking about football, right? So because you're not, Peyton Manning or pick the football player of your choice, Tom Brady. I'm not good at football because I'm not Tom Brady, right? But you might be, really, really, really good compared to me and Eddie, by way of example.
I was the MVP for the inaugural season of my football team when I was playing professional football, so I wasn't bad.
I'm just going to tell you that I came across that picture of you in your football gear like years ago, and I'm like, is that really her? Because people play with pictures and stuff like that. I'm like, I just want to print that out and get her. I come up to you and say, "Can I have your autograph?" Because I'm like, I just want to. You got to tell me about.
What number is that?
I'm like, I have to. I have to know if this is real, right? So it was awesome to find that out. But you know what? I think you being candid about, you know, talking about how your confidence fluctuates, I think that's a real thing for many people. And I think just by you sharing that, knowing, because I'll tell you, we don't see it, and I'm gonna, Eric, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't see a fluctuation in confidence. I never see confidence in Katie waning at all.
Well, but I'll tell you something, Eddie. And so this is where I don't see it, and I agree with you, but I remember this story. So the very first time that I met Katie, Justin had dragged you, I think, almost physically to come do a presentation at IAMCP.
Yep.
And you were there, and Justin came up to me and he goes, Katie's a little nervous about presenting in front of the group. And I'm like, why? Like, everybody here is going to love her and everybody's going to want to hear. But I remember that Justin told me that you were a little nervous because it was whatever, a room full of 80 people or something in the Microsoft office there. But Eddie's so right that first off, we all do love you, and you're amazing. But I can see why you have that challenge, right? That's the waning confidence that you might struggle with. But to the rest of us, like you talked about, fake it till you make it. You do great fake it till you make it, because we don't see it.
Well, good. I mean, huge shout out to Justin Slagle, because he was the one that got me involved with IAMCP, and never looked back. But I actually would also add, in terms of a shout out to Justin, is when we go talk about the D&I conversation and level of confidence for females. Oftentimes that is something that that they struggle with, and kind of visualizing that glass ceiling that they can't break through. And so that also kind of keeps down some of that confidence. And I would say, huge kudos to Justin for being the confidence that I didn't have, and putting that in me, right? Recognizing that I could be, great at, this presentation, and, interacting with IMCP and being a leader in this space. And, maybe I just needed a nudge, or, as Eric said, being drugged into the room. And so I think that is something that I've seen in some of my allies personally, where they recognize that I'm ready for that next step before I recognize it in myself. And they help to kind of prop me up. They help to get me there. They help to instill confidence, or just throw me in because they know I'm going to swim or doggy paddle.
Or walk across the bottom until you can shoot straight up, right?
Hey, again, doesn't matter how you get there. You just got to get there.
Exactly.
And I think that's part of the mentorship, though, too, right? It's that when you see somebody who's ready for that step, who can take that you just got to encourage them, support them. And it sounds
Push
like
them.
you've had some, sometimes you got to push them in the deep end to close the, keep the analogy going here.
Yeah. And could you just not look like you need to be saved when you finish your dive? That's one of my favorite things. I'm not sure if I want to clap for you or save you.
Exactly. If only I had video of that somewhere.
Oh, maybe it exists. Oh, well, that'll be worth finding. So when you talk about shattering glass ceilings, and I'll wrap up, because but they sell this tool, right? And it's in case you're in an accident, and it cuts your seatbelt, and it has a little sharp, metal end where you can break glass. So we collectively, the four of us, and you, and anybody who wants to join us on this journey, we are going to be that tool, and we are going to shatter glass ceilings, and we're going to open doors for everybody. And we're saying it on this podcast, so I want you to join us, and I want you to, sometimes you'll lead, sometimes we'll lead, but we're going to do it together.
I'm in. Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Really do appreciate talking to you, and I'm really glad that you made the decision you made to take this this promotion. And I can tell you personally, I'm just thrilled that we're going to have an opportunity to work more closely together in the coming years. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for having me on. I think this is an awesome opportunity for me in taking this role, and I'm very excited to see what I can do with my new team within the SMB space, and knowing that we've got a great partner in IMCP. I'm definitely excited about how we can help to take more share within the SMB space for Microsoft, because that was a big win last fiscal in taking share, and we want to accelerate that even further. So thank you for being part of the space with us.
I know there's more that we could talk to you about, Katie, and I hope you'll come back sometime soon, because I have questions that I didn't get to ask this time around that I would love to dive into, maybe more on the partner side and the IMCP side. But this was a great opportunity to get to know Katie a little bit. And then next time maybe we'll be a little bit more focused on the business. So with that said, couple of there's one question that we typically asked, and it's kind of the closing question, and that is, what does an ideal partnership look like to you? And maybe in this case, take that partnership and define it however you'd like.
Ooh, I've never had a question quite like this one. What does an ideal partnership look like? Well, I guess for me, whether it's a partnership with Microsoft and a partner, or in other areas in life, it's kind of coming down to give-gets that are leading us both toward, mutual goals or individual goals that are beneficial for both, right? And so in kind of the professional world now, with partners focusing on the SMB space, the ideal partnership would be helping us make sure that we are supporting you in driving our joint businesses together. So, sometimes I hear feedback is the breakfast of champions. And I definitely believe that there's a lot that Microsoft has to offer that we think is helpful for our partners in driving our joint business. And it's a help us help you. Give us that feedback so that we can ideally even look at how do we go from step 1 to step 3 and skipping step 2, because it's a big idea with big impact. And we love that, right? And we're here to support, because we know that if we're helping you grow your Microsoft business, then obviously we're growing ours as well. So we have mutually beneficial goals. And we want to see how we can support each other. And one of the biggest ways that, outside of driving ads or revenue in Microsoft, is providing us that feedback of how we can better support you.
Awesome. Katie, thank you so much for being your genuine self here today. And we really, really appreciate it. So everyone, that will do it for this episode of the True Stories in Tech podcast. I'm Eric Klaus, along with our cast of characters: Manish Bardia, president of Think AI Consulting; Brian Enuma, president of Strategic Systems Group; and Eddie Bader, COO of Aegis Innovators. Our guest today has been Katie Ryckman, and we are tremendously grateful, Katie, for you joining us today. Thank you all for listening to this episode of the True Stories in Tech podcast. Please join us next week for more True Stories in Tech. There we go.
Is recording over?
I think Manish is going to have
Manish will stop it. But
yeah.
But this
all this stuff will get edited. So
yeah, this is where we'll break the recording.
Yeah. And then
I have. Oh,
go ahead, Brian. I was just gonna say, and I don't think we explained the process for Katie. Brian, do you want to explain how this will go from here?
Okay, sure. And we kind of missed it for David as well, but we'll send a DocuSign envelope that has assignment and release agreement. We've sort of toned down the Microsoft version, so we have a Microsoft version that should go through pretty easily. We've been asked to make the revisions that we have, so the version is a little bit simpler than the normal version. there is a review process. So we'll have the edited recording available for review. You might scold me or scold us because for right now the process is on AWS, so the recording will be on an AWS download link. Justin kind of chided us that you should probably
It
make
doesn't work
that
on my computer.
exactly. All right, we can edit, and then at the point that we're ready, we can publish the podcast. I kind of lost track a little bit, but we're probably maybe in mid-September timeframe, I'm guessing, to late September. We'll give you the link and give you a little image. If you have, I think you might have sent us a picture, possibly, of yourself that we can use as a podcast image. Is that
Please
true?
let me use your football picture.
There we go.
You can juxtapose that one next to my LinkedIn photo.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh,
The two sides of Katie.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
All right, very funny. Cool. And then once we have the podcast available, you can promote and share and do whatever. We'll do the same thing on our side.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
And I really do hope you'll come back, Katie, because I really would love to chat with you more about some of the opportunities, where you see opportunities for partners, where you think partners should be focusing or not. I had a whole laundry list of questions that we didn't get to today, so maybe another time.
I do too, but I also think, why don't we just hold a special Americas session and just have Katie on as a guest, and she could talk to all of us at the same time.
Oh my
That
gosh.
would be cool.
We could do
So
that.
Katie,
Oh my gosh.
you have a standing invitation. Whenever you want to be here, you're here. So just know that if we don't have an event that you want to be a part of, we'll make one for you. So I'm just going to tell you right now that we're going to have this session, and then you can tell us what you want to talk about. You tell us what date works for you, and we'll make it happen. So I'm going to push you on this because we'll announce it at the end of the month on our leadership call to all the chapter leaders, and it'd be great to introduce you to the community and let everybody know what you're focused on. And to Eric's point, maybe Eric, you can ask those questions in that session, right?
Yeah,
and then we can
absolutely.
share that. So I think it'd be great to have a big audience for you. So
cool.
Awesome. It gives me a little bit more time to better learn the business now that I'm back in SC.
I have a little story to tell, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The little story is I attended church in Costa Mesa, although it's kind of gone through some iterations. So a couple of iterations back, had a couple of young friends in church, and then I was able to meet family and so forth because they came from Michigan to visit. So what I had asked my two young friends is something along the lines of, your family is really nice. I like them a lot. Do you think your parents might adopt me? And for you, my little note for you is, I want to be like you when I grow up.
Well, thank you. No, that means a lot to hear, the positive words that you guys have shared in terms of kind of how you view me. Because I look up to you guys. The times that I have met you, Brian, I know we haven't met in person, but with Eric and Eddie, I think of you guys as incredibly confident and relaxed and, knowing who you are, knowing your business. And, it's kind of this you say you looking up to me, you want to be like me when I grew up. I came into IMZP and I was like, Eric's got it all together, right? Maybe not Eddie, Eric.
Sorry.
That's
I had to
100% accurate.
Yeah. Oh, if only that were so true.
We just got real again.
Oh my God.
And on a different note, Katie, we may not hang out all the time, but we are your friends and part of your support system. And I know you've been going through a lot. Just know that if you need us for anything, we're here for you. And You know, if it's a 1 hour drive, a 3 hour drive, whatever, you know, that doesn't matter. Just know that if you need us, we'll be there for you. And I think I speak for the whole team. So I don't want you to ever think that you don't have support in many different places. And, you know, sometimes we don't know what you might need. So if you just let us know, we'll take care of it.
Oftentimes, I don't know what I might need.
Yep, that's fair.
You're part of the IMCP family. You know, you and Justin and Matt, like there are core, you know, integral members of the IMCP family, and you're very much part of that, especially here in SoCal. So just know that, and I wasn't kidding that, and I know Eddie wasn't either when we say you're beloved by this team, by the IMCP community as a whole.
Absolutely.
No joke. Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, all sincere.
Well, thank you, guys. That means a lot. So thank you, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for believing in me enough to, you know, have me on here.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
This is a treat for us.
Very
Absolutely.
much.
All right. Well, we should let you go and go do whatever you need to do with your daughter. I'm sure that there are after school things and homework maybe, or
I told her we could eat pizza tonight. First day of school, we're doing a pizza night.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm gonna go get that ordered.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thanks, Katie.
All right.
Thanks,
Guys.
Take care.
So much. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.